Hey, what's going on everyone? Boylon here, and in today's video I wanted to take a bit of a stab at my own top 10 free-to-play / farmable characters for the month of August 2020. And I know that we aren't quite in August yet, but I just want to do the video a few days before the month starts, so the next time I do one of these videos we can see who has been added to the list, or aka who has become farmable since then. So I created some tables of the characters that I'll be considering for this video, and those who will not be. So let's hop on over and take a look. And so here we have a bit of a sort of a table chart here that I have courtesy of Tier Maker. So everyone here on the left are going to be characters that I'll be considering for my list. The ones on the right, for one reason or another, are not going to be included. So the legendaries, they're not going to be counted. I also put Ultron here in this category. Now I know he's not a legendary, but you know, he's not someone you can actively farm for right away, or, you know, even in the mid-game necessarily. So he's over here because you have to get him through Dark Dimension, and Dark Dimension 2 rather. And this category here, all of these characters are either unfarmable or only in orbs. So this also includes characters who are in the milestone orbs, like Captain Marvel, Agent Coulson, and well, Symbiote Spider-Man's in his own milestone currently as we speak. Also Yo-Yo and Minerva, who are premiums, only in the premium orbs. And Ultimus, well, you know, he wasn't going to make the list anyways, just a heads up, but he is only a farmable in his own Ultimus orbs there. So everyone else, you know, largely is only in the orbs or don't have any real method of farming. I'm also not really including any minions this time around. Probably the only ones I might have considered would have been probably Hand Sentry or Merc, Lieutenant or Riot Guard. Those are probably the only three minions I think that would have been justified on a list like this, but just heads up now that I'm not including any minions either. So, and these are what I call the trash, never even considered. So Nebula, Elektra, Night Nurse, Nobu, and Winter Soldier. Although there are rumors that maybe Winter Soldier might be getting a rework, possibly, given the supposedly Baron Zemo is on the way. So that might include some Hydra adjustments for him and Crossbones, possibly, but we don't know yet. I also do want to say that characters that have more individual values outside of their own team will probably make it higher up on my list, and those that sort of require their team to be good will tend to be a bit lower on this list as well. But without further ado, let's get into it. So starting at the bottom of the list, we have Drax at number 10. And what can I say about Drax? He is probably the only person on this list that is largely an initial release character. But there are a few out there that can do what he does, and what really makes him shine above the rest is his spawn taunt that comes from his passive. And whether you're new, mid-game, or late-game player, I think there will always be a spot for him somewhere. Whether that is on the Guardians team, or even just used as a tank for some other team that needs one. Or in the past, a lot of people have also lumped him with Ultron to help fend off some attacks, but in general, he is a quite well-rounded tank. I think he is also a great plug-and-play character still, and not one to skip out on. Or at the very least, getting him unlocked and geared to a decent level to use him in different parts of your roster. His overall kit is decent, but the reason why he's on this list really comes from the spawn taunt and his ability to take a hit without really needing extra synergy from others. And where can you find Drax? Well, he is farmable out of the Arena store. But coming in for my number 9 pick is going to be... and none other than the Red Symbiote himself, Carnage. Some people might be surprised to see him make my list, and the reason why he isn't higher than this is because how much better he becomes in the presence of Symbiote Spider-Man and Venom. So while I think he is a very strong character, I think he loses some of this value from becoming that much better with his threesome team. Carnage's kit also typically requires others with negative status effects to take advantage of and spread with his basic, but his ultimate is a very strong move, and overall, you know, his cooldowns aren't too bad. His passive is what really makes him really great with him and the fellow symbiotes, giving them 20 to 30% speed bar boost rather, anytime an enemy drops into the red HP. This on top of the passive from Symbiote Spider-Man has made Carnage a really great character to use in raids and Dark Dimension these days, and really adds some flavor to the game by switching up characters for these game modes. Also, he can really take advantage of enemy summons, because they normally have low HP, so getting him into the red to trigger the passive usually is quite easy to do. So, great character. Unfortunately, he is a bit of a harder farm if you want to outright farm his shards, but you can find him in the War Store, where he'll compete with a few others, such as Pyro, Graviton, and Sif particularly. And actually, yeah, if he's not in the war supply store, he actually doesn't show up here in the find list, but he is there, trust me. He is a very strong character to add to your roster when he becomes available, and I definitely recommend him. And here we have Colossus. Now, I did have a bit of a hard time with this one, mainly because he loses a bit of value from largely requiring him to be with his fellow X-Men to take full range and advantage of his kit. But in terms of tanking, he's one of the strongest tanks in the roster to date. Unfortunately, he does need Phoenix on the field to take advantage of his 2-turn defense up on spawn and applying defense up to all X-Men allies. But aside from this, he's very beefy, and not only does he taunt for other X-Men characters as well when they get low hit points here, under 50% health, but he gets a crazy amount of resistance while he has defense up. So it's possible that if you don't have Phoenix, you could substitute another support character to provide him this buff, maybe like Shuri or someone else. There's quite a few other characters that can do defense up. He's also used quite frequently in the end game, particularly in Arena right now, but he is definitely worth considering for modes such as Dark Dimension 3 as well. Because of his common usage with Phoenix, that's why I didn't rate him higher than this, but he's an extremely sturdy tank, and you shouldn't pass up on this Russian steel wall. He is unfortunately a bit of a later game farm at the new Heroes 7-9. This was one of the new campaign chapters that were added earlier on this year. Now, coming in at number 7 is Ghost Rider. Typically seen as the flaming head leader of the Supernatural team, he also has a lot of strong solo value as well. Ghost Rider has a great kit that can really dish out a lot of damage with a surprisingly low cooldown on his ultimate Penance Stare, which is also a great way for him to get any health back following an ally's death, as he gains 200% drain off this move. While he is commonly used with the Supernatural team, he also does have some synergy with other Mystics as well from his passive here, although that's near the bottom of the list here, so he gets 30% focus, and all Mystic allies also get that as well. But you've also seen him used in combination with the Symbiotes, who can take advantage of all the negative effects that he applies with all of his moves. Somewhat of a newer addition to the farmability list, I think Ghost Rider is a pretty good standalone character that you won't want to miss out on. And especially for newer to mid-game players, he provides really good value with his team for the Mystic campaign as well. So to farm him, you can find him on Cosmic 3-9. I believe he replaced Black Panther on this particular node, but isn't a super difficult node to get to. And moving on up to number 6, we have Falcon. Maybe a character who's dropped a little bit in terms of overall value, but a very strong character nonetheless. Where Falcon really excels is a special Red Wing, which can grant a crazy amount of turn bars sometimes to your team, depending on how many positive stats effects there are on the opposing side. I have seen this move rack up like a full turn sometimes, depending on how many enemies there are. Falcon was commonly used in the Ultimus 7 Tech Wing layout raid team prior to the change in the difficulties, so I don't think he is used as frequently as he used to be, but of course he's still that backbone to the Power Armor team for war as well. Without Falcon, the Power Armor team just wouldn't function without what he brings to the table, which admittedly is largely his special, but it's on such a short cooldown of 3 energy that it can come up quite a bit. In the heyday of tech characters, Falcon was considered a very top character, and really even still is someone to make sure you have unlocked and brought up. He's also a character that I personally see having some value in competitive PvP when they decide to bring that forward, due to the usefulness of his kit. And where can you farm Falcon? He is available on Nexus 7-3 if you want to unlock him and farm more shards for him. Now we're getting into the top 5 characters where the competition's a bit fierce. But this one goes to none other than Vision. And what can I say about Vision other than he used to be someone that was almost always number 1 in these sorts of lists because of how powerful and well-rounded his kit was. Unfortunately, he's being slowly power crept out of his ranking by others at this point in time. His basic attack is very strong and applies offense down to those he hits and additional bleeds if they are tech. His dive bomb special as well was considered really, and still is pretty amazing with its ability block, and also to an additional target as well. Solar Beam, which is his ultimate, was an amazing way to clear buffs, although the Scarlet Witch team-up synergy really got left behind later, since nobody really used them together that much. But the reason why he ranks so highly even still is his versatility with tech characters, and this comes from his passive. So his passive allows him to give 2 turns of defense up to all tech allies, and this one is pretty huge considering the range of tech characters that exist in the game. He was commonly used with the largely kind of now defunct BKT or Best Kree team, which included tech characters like Minerva, Rocket, and Star-Lord. But I've also seen him used with Ultron and, well, any group of tech characters who needs some support and control. Unfortunately, Vision was pushed off the new Power Armor 2.0 team, but he's still a very strong character, and if you're an early to mid-game player, you'd be missing out if you don't have Vision somewhere on your roster. He is a bit of a later farm-ish, sitting at the final note of Mystic campaign at Mystic 3-9, aka the God King Thor level, but when you have a decent Mystic lineup, you should work on getting this bad boy unlocked. Now coming up at the number 4 slot is Scientist Supreme. This woman of science has really elevated her ranking over the months because previously she would have been rated one of the worst characters in the game if you guys had been playing prior to the AIM rework last year. But man, this is a good example of going from 0 to hero. Everything in her kit screams support and she is great at what she does. Starting with her basic, this can apply random status effects. Her special can flip any negative status effects on the ally team. And her ultimate retro vaccination is a great move that applies 2 turns of debuffs to everyone, including the ally team, which sounds crazy, but that's what the special is for, to flip all of those into buffs instead of while leaving the other side still debuffed. Scientist Supreme's passive also has a 25% chance to revive a dead ally, which can trigger surprisingly often. What is great really about her is that she can also be used outside of her traditional AIM team as well, and has been commonly used these days in harder raids including Ultimus 7, but also used in Dark Dimension 3 Global Lane as well. And where can you find her? She's actually not that difficult to find, and she's farmable via Cosmic 2-9, so that's even before the likes of Ghost Rider. So if you need a strong support character, then definitely add Scientist Supreme to your roster. And here we are in the top 3, and this spot is going to go to Thanos. Previously, this guy wouldn't have been able to be added to a list like this, but was made farmable a few months ago, and with the recent Black Order patch, he definitely deserves to be up here. Now, I'm not going to go through his entire kit since he has 2 forms, including his empowered Thanos form, but let me tell you, he is a powerhouse beast, and you really wouldn't be going wrong with upgrading this character. One of the few non-legendary characters in the game that I have completely maxed out 7775, but given both of his forms, he definitely deserves it. If you happen to have the Black Order unlocked, that's even better, and you'll see him crush basically everyone he goes up against in his empowered form. But even if you don't, he's still very great at what he does, which is typically as a tank, and ability energy generator in his regular form. This comes from his passive Titan Eternal, which grants ability energy to him and other cosmic allies on death of an enemy. This is used quite frequently in many existing raids, especially Ultimus 7, and he can really get an ability energy train rolling with a high damage team. On top of this, he still boasts a very strong 2-turn taunt with his special, and also there's ways to heal himself as well, back using his energy bomb ultimate, which has a drain mechanic on it. An amazing character, and the Black Order patch really just elevated his overall usefulness to even greater heights. Farm this bad boy as fast as you can once you get to his unlock, and you can do that via Nexus 8-9, which unfortunately is the very last current campaign chapter in the game at this time. But this is the ultimate goal for anyone who doesn't have Thanos maxed out at 7-star. You really won't regret this. And now we've reached the top 2, which in this case is going to go to Mr. Sinister. This pick probably came to no surprise to anyone who has any knowledge of the game, but admittedly I had a tough time deciding on my top 2, and really could have interchanged this and he could have been number 1 because he is that strong of a character. Sinister is one of the few characters in the game I believe has future proofing due to his ability to clone any target, which stems from his ultimate move. He creates an identical clone of anyone on the field, and the clone scales with Sinister's stats, including Red Star boosts as well, which can make certain characters absolute beasts. On top of this, Sinister has amazing support and healing capabilities through his special and passive, which heals everyone else, but also allows him to passively heal himself every turn as well, so he's got his own form of sustain this way. Definitely a character I'll be working on getting some more shards on soon, as he is an absolute monster for many game modes. Used a little bit less in the top arenas nowadays with the introduction of Black Order, but I expect him to still be around there for mid-game players. He also plays a significant role in war defense, especially coming soon with the release of Emma Frost around the corner. And many take him into Dark Dimension 3 global lane as well due to his overall kit. Definitely a character I'll be taking up to 7-star just as soon as I finish those Sif shards up for Black Bolt. So where can you get shards for Sinister? I alluded a bit to this earlier, but he's unfortunately part of the coveted War Supply Store, which you can't actually see in the Find button unless he's actually in the supply store, but trust me, he is there when you can find him. And I recommend everyone to at least have him unlocked when you can through using your war credits, as you can't go wrong with having him in your roster. Now, there were a few quick honorable mentions before we get to the number 1 pick that I wanted to get to, and that includes Miss Marvel. I think that she is a great character for sort of hero brawler characters, even though she's now tagged as Young Avengers. She is a good character that can sort of round them out if you have a lot of sort of leftover characters that are hero brawlers that can be used with her, that sort of aren't left homeless because of that. So she is a good character and well-rounded for that reason. And another one I wanted to look at also as well is Loki. So the reason why, you'll find out when I get to my number 1 pick, and maybe it's not all that surprising, but the reason why he's not on the list is because of that person. I didn't want to put 2 people from the same team. Loki, though, is a great standalone character as well, with his mind control and his mirror images that he spawns. He is just a really great character to add to any team. Of course, better with his Asgardian team. I really wanted to throw that out there as an honorable mention. Now, this number 1 spot probably isn't all that surprising, but it's definitely going to go to Hela. Now, like I said, I had a tough time between this pick and Sinister, but it's going to have to go to the Mistress of the Underworld herself. And what can I say about Hela, other than she single-handedly destroys the competition in almost every way. Everything about her kit is really great, but we'll start with the obvious, and that's her passive Goddess of Death, which summons an undead Asgardian on the field, aka Greg, is what he's normally called, and why this is so awesome. And other than having a really neat kit which applies heal blocks and bleeds, whenever he dies, he actually reduces the speed bar of all enemies by 10%. What makes this even more awesome is that every single time he dies, he just respawns over and over again. This is often taken advantage of because the AI often will attack Greg without realizing it, causing all of this turn bar to get knocked back, and sometimes multiple times in a row. And that's just one part of Hela's kit, really. Her Death Knives ultimate is incredibly destructive, doing a significant amount of damage to the enemies and spread any negative status effects from the primary target to everyone else on the field, other than stun anyways. Her special also gives a way to disrupt targets, and her basic move is a strong Deadpool-esque attack that injures, a Deadpool-esque move that attacks the most injured target as well. Overall, though, she has an amazing kit and really can't understate the importance of Hela. She's made even stronger when combined with the other Asgardians, as she gets additional healing on her turn and more max health for each one that's on the field. And on war defense, she's even more of a beast, giving them all extra damage when they're together. Overall, a crazy character and easily one of the best characters in the game at the moment, with usage in just about every game mode she's usable in. She's a bit of a tough farm though, and she is found in the new, somewhat new, Villains Chapter 7-6, but definitely worth the campaign push to get her unlocked, as she's a super important character to have on your roster for just about everywhere. And that rounds out my first top 10 free-to-play / farmable characters list, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it informative, or helped you think about characters to search out and gear up or farm for. Some of them are a bit harder than others to get, but one way or another, it is obtainable in ways other than hoping for good orb luck. I'm thinking of doing a video like this once a month, and that way we can see what characters have still maintained their position, but also what new characters may have been added to this list in a month's time. Let me know in the comments down below if you think there is anyone else that should have been on this list, given the criteria I mentioned in the beginning though. There's a good chance I'll be doing a general top 10 list as well, but given that many of the legendaries would probably have been on that list, I didn't want to make it too obvious right now. I hope that everyone enjoys the rest of their day today, and if you guys like this video, then feel free to smash that thumbs up down below, and consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. But until next time guys, stay safe. Boylon signing out.